My name is Nick Santoro, and I used to think my biggest problem was keeping my jewelry store profitable in Brooklyn. Turns out, the real problem was keeping my wife faithful and her brother from destroying everything I'd built. But I'm getting ahead of myself. It started on a Tuesday morning when I found Clarice's phone face down on our kitchen counter. She never left it face down, ever. The woman lived for Instagram notifications like a vampire lives for blood. Something was wrong. "Morning, beautiful," I said, kissing her cheek as she scrambled eggs. She jumped like I'd electrocuted her. "Oh, Nick, you scared me." Her laugh sounded forced, artificial, like those fake diamonds tourists buy in Times Square. I'd been married to Clarice for 3 years, long enough to know when she was lying. The signs were subtle but consistent, avoiding eye contact, touching her neck, that nervous laugh. She was doing all three right now. "Everything okay?" I asked, pouring coffee. "Perfect," she said, still not looking at me. "Just tired." "Book club ran late last night." "Book club." Right. The same book club that apparently never read actual books anymore, just discussed them over wine until midnight. With Ivan Draganic, the Serbian intellectual, who joined 6 months ago and somehow made every discussion about his fascinating life experiences. I picked up her phone to move it, and the screen lit up. A text message preview made my blood freeze. "Miss you already. Your husband still clueless?" My hand trembled slightly, but I kept my voice steady. "Honey, you got a text." She spun around so fast she nearly dropped the pan. "I'll check it later." But I'd already seen enough. Ivan. The same Ivan who rode that beat-up Ducati and made YouTube videos about authentic living while mooching off lonely housewives. The same Ivan who my wife claimed was just a friend and probably gay anyway. Gay men don't usually text married women about clueless husbands. I went to work that morning with my world tilting sideways. Santoro Jewelry had been my father's shop, then mine. I knew every diamond's cut, every setting's weakness. But I'd missed the biggest flaw of all, the crack running right through my marriage. My brother Frankie stopped by around noon, bringing sandwiches and his usual commentary on life. "You look like hell, Nicky," he said, unwrapping a pastrami on rye. "Clarice keeping you up nights?" Something like that. I couldn't bring myself to tell him yet. Frankie had warned me about Clarice from the beginning, said she was too pretty, too ambitious for a neighborhood jeweler. I'd defended her, called him jealous. Now I felt like an idiot. "You know what your problem is?" Frankie continued, mouth full of sandwich. "You're too nice. Too trusting. In this neighborhood, that gets you eaten alive." He had no idea how right he was. That evening, I decided to test my suspicions. "How was book club last night?" I asked over dinner. "Great," Clarice said quickly. "We discussed Gatsby." "The Great Gatsby? Didn't you read that last month?" Her fork paused halfway to her mouth. "Did we?" I don't remember. She didn't remember because there was no book club, not anymore. There was just Ivan, his motorcycle, and my wife's lies. I started paying attention to details I'd previously ignored. The new lingerie in her drawer. The way she showered immediately after coming home from book club. The fact that her car smelled like cigarettes when she claimed to hate smoking. Most damning of all, I found Ivan's helmet in her trunk. Confronting a cheating spouse is like defusing a bomb. One wrong move and everything explodes. I chose the direct approach. "Clarice," I said Friday morning, holding up the helmet. "Want to explain why Ivan's helmet is in your car?" Her face went white, then red, then settled on a shade of pale I'd never seen before. I was just... She stammered, then gathered herself. "He left it at book club." I offered to return it. "By keeping it in your trunk for a week?" I forgot about it. I set the helmet on our kitchen table with a deliberate thunk. "Try again." She straightened up, and I saw the exact moment she decided to go on the offensive instead of defensive. "You're being paranoid, Nick." Ivan is gay. I've told you this. We're just friends. Gay men don't text about clueless husbands. Her eyes flashed with something between fear and anger. You read my texts? I saw one, by accident. Want to show me the rest? No. My phone is private. Not when you're married to me, it isn't. The argument escalated quickly. Voices raised, accusations flew. She called me controlling and paranoid. I called her a liar and worse. Finally, she stormed out, claiming she needed space to think. She went straight to Ivan's apartment. I know because I followed her. Ivan lived in a converted warehouse in Red Hook, the kind of place that tries too hard to be artistic and edgy. I watched from my van as Clarice knocked on his door. He answered shirtless, pulled her inside immediately. They didn't come out for 4 hours. I sat in that van watching their silhouettes move past the windows and felt something cold and hard crystallize in my chest. It wasn't just anger. It was calculation, planning. When Clarice finally emerged, her hair was messed up and her lipstick was gone. She looked around nervously before getting in her car, like she sensed she was being watched. She was right. That night, she came home acting like nothing had happened. Made dinner, asked about my day, even suggested we watch a movie together. The performance was Oscar-worthy. I'm sorry about this morning, she said during the movie. You're right to be concerned. I should have been more transparent about my friendship with Ivan. Friendship, I repeated. Yes, I know how it looks, but Nick, I swear to you, nothing inappropriate is happening. I almost believed her. She was that good. But I'd seen her coming out of his apartment with missing lipstick. Some lies are too big to swallow. Prove it, I said. What? If it's innocent, prove it. Let me read your texts with him. She hesitated just long enough to confirm my worst fears. I don't think that's healthy for our relationship. You need to trust me. Trust is earned, Clarice. And right now, your account is overdrawn. She went to bed angry. I stayed up all night, planning my next move. The next morning, I called in a favor from my cousin Tony, who worked in IT. Within 2 hours, he'd installed tracking software on Clarice's phone and car. Not illegal when it's your spouse, and you own the phone plan. You sure about this, Nick? Tony asked. Sometimes it's better not to know. I need to know everything. And I did. Over the next week, the tracking data painted a clear picture. Clarice was meeting Ivan 3 times a week, always at his apartment, always for 2 to 3 hours. She'd told me she was shopping, visiting her mother, or having lunch with friends. All lies. But the real bombshell came when she sat me down the following Sunday with tears in her eyes and trembling hands. Nick, I have something to tell you, she said. I'm pregnant. My heart stopped. Then started again, beating so hard I could hear it. That's wonderful, I managed. There's something else. She wouldn't meet my eyes. I'm not sure. There's a chance. It might not be yours. The world tilted. What? I made a mistake. One time. I was drunk and confused, and it didn't mean anything, but... She started crying. I need to tell you the truth. I slept with Ivan. Once. Maybe twice. I can't remember exactly. Once or twice, right. Like I hadn't been tracking her visits to his apartment for weeks. When? I asked quietly. A few weeks ago. I'm so sorry, Nick. It was a terrible mistake. But the baby... We need to do a paternity test. I sat there, absorbing the magnitude of her betrayal. Not just the cheating, but the lies upon lies. The gaslighting, the manipulation. Okay, I said finally. We'll do the test. She looked surprised by my calm reaction. You're not angry? I was furious, but I was also planning, and planning required a clear head. I'm processing, I said. This is a lot to take in. That was the understatement of the century. That night, after Clarice fell asleep, I called Frankie. "I need your help," I said. "It's time to scare the accent off this guy." "Finally," Frankie said. "I was wondering when you'd grow a backbone." The DNA test was scheduled for the following Friday, but I wasn't waiting for results to start my revenge. I already knew whose baby it was, and I knew exactly what I was going to do about it. The DNA results came back on a Thursday. I stared at the envelope for 10 minutes before opening it, even though I already knew what it would say. Not the father. Ivan's baby, growing inside my wife. The ultimate betrayal wrapped in biological certainty. I called Frankie immediately. "It's time." "The baby?" "Not mine." Silence on the other end. Then, "That Serbian piece of garbage." "Where do you want to meet?" "His place." "Tonight." "Bring the tools." "Nikki, we're not gonna—" "Relax. We're just going to have a conversation, a very persuasive conversation. Ivan's building had no security, no doorman. We walked right up to his third-floor apartment at 9 p.m. I could hear music playing inside, some pretentious European jazz that probably made him feel sophisticated. Frankie cracked his knuckles. "You sure about this approach?" "Trust me." I knocked. The music stopped. Footsteps approached. "Who is it?" Ivan's accented voice called through the door. "Nick Santoro. We need to talk." Long pause. Then the sound of multiple locks being undone. The door opened, revealing Ivan in a silk robe and nothing else. Behind him, I could see candles lit throughout the apartment. He'd been expecting someone, probably my wife. "Nick," he said, trying to sound casual. "This is unexpected." "I bet it is." I pushed past him into the apartment, Frankie right behind me. Ivan's place was exactly what I'd expected. Exposed brick walls, expensive furniture he probably couldn't afford, and photographs of himself scattered everywhere. Narcissist's paradise. "We need to discuss your relationship with my wife," I said. Ivan closed the door slowly, his eyes darting between me and Frankie. "I think there has been misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding." I pulled out the DNA results. "Congratulations, you're going to be a father." His face went pale. "I don't know what you are talking about." "Sure, you don't." I walked over to his coffee table, where I noticed a woman's earring. One I'd bought Clarice for our anniversary. Nice earring. "Clarice leave this behind?" Ivan said nothing. Frankie had been quiet until now, but he stepped forward. "My brother asked you a question." "Look," Ivan said, backing toward the window. "Whatever Clarice told you—" "She told me everything," I interrupted. "The affair, the pregnancy, the lies. All of it. It was not meant to happen this way." "How was it meant to happen?" "You seduce my wife, get her pregnant, and then what? I raise your kid while you make YouTube videos about authentic living?" Ivan's jaw tightened. "You do not understand. Clarice and I, we have connection. Real connection. Not like what she has with you." That's when I snapped. I grabbed him by his silk robe and slammed him against the brick wall. "Real connection? You mean the connection where you hide behind her lies and let me pay for everything while you play house?" "Nick, let him go," Frankie said. "He's not worth it." But I wasn't done. "You want to know what a real connection looks like? It looks like working 60 hours a week to build something. It looks like commitment. It looks like not running away when things get difficult." Ivan tried to push me away, but I was stronger than he expected. Years of physical labor had built muscle he couldn't match with his motorcycle rides and yoga classes. "You are making mistake," he gasped. "The only mistake was trusting my wife. But I'm about to fix that." I released him and stepped back. He straightened his robe, trying to regain some dignity. "What do you want?" he asked. "I want you gone. Out of Brooklyn. Out of New York. Out of our lives. I cannot just leave. I have life here." What life? Your YouTube channel with 300 subscribers? Your part-time job at that coffee shop? Your apartment you can barely afford? His silence confirmed I'd hit the mark. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to disappear. Delete Clarice's number, block her on social media, act like she never existed. And if I refuse? Frankie stepped forward again. Then we get creative. Ivan looked between us, calculating his options. You cannot threaten me. I'm not threatening you. I'm explaining your situation. See, I've been doing research. You're here on a work visa, right? Expires in 6 months. And your sponsor is that coffee shop downtown, the one owned by my friend Marco. Ivan's eyes widened. One phone call from me, and Marco learns about your side business seducing married women. Think he'll want to keep sponsoring you? That is blackmail. That's consequences, something you apparently never learned about. I pulled out my phone and showed him photos I'd taken of his motorcycle. Nice Ducati. Be a shame if something happened to it. You would not dare. Frankie laughed. Kid, you clearly don't know the Santoro family. We dare plenty. Ivan was trapped, and he knew it. His visa, his job, his motorcycle. I could destroy all of it with a few phone calls. What about Clarice? He asked finally. What about her? The baby. She will need support. That's not your concern anymore. The baby isn't your responsibility. It's mine now. I was lying, of course. I had no intention of raising another man's child, but Ivan didn't need to know my real plans. I need time to think, Ivan said. You have 24 hours. After that, I start making phone calls. We left him standing in his apartment, looking lost and scared. Good. Fear was exactly what I wanted him to feel. Think he'll run? Frankie asked as we walked to my van. Doesn't matter. Either way, he's out of the picture. What about Clarice? I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Clarice is about to learn what happens when you betray a Santoro. Ivan left town 3 days later. I know because I was watching his apartment when he loaded his motorcycle into a rental truck and drove away. He never said goodbye to Clarice, never returned her increasingly frantic calls. She came home that Friday evening in tears. He's gone, she sobbed. Ivan just disappeared. He won't answer his phone. Maybe he got tired of the drama, I suggested. No, you don't understand. We had plans. We were going to figure this out together. Figure what out? She looked at me like I was stupid. The baby. Our future. Everything. That's when I realized the full scope of her betrayal. She hadn't just cheated. She'd been planning to leave me for him. The pregnancy had accelerated her timeline, but the intent was always there. Our future? I repeated. I don't know. I'm confused. Everything's falling apart. I walked to our bedroom and returned with a suitcase. Her suitcase. What's that for? She asked. You? Nick, what are you doing? I'm helping you figure out your future. Just not with me. I set the suitcase down and opened it. Pack your things. You have 1 hour. You can't be serious. DNA test came back. Want to guess the results? Her face crumbled. Nick, please, let me explain. Explain what? That you've been lying to me for months? That you got pregnant by another man? That you were planning to leave me anyway? It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You made your choice when you started sleeping with Ivan. You made it again when you got pregnant. And you made it a third time when you lied about everything. She tried to grab my hands, but I pulled away. The baby changes things. I need support. You should have thought about that before you cheated. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. She stared at me like she'd never seen me before. You're really going to throw me out? While I'm pregnant? You threw yourself out when you started screwing Ivan. I'm just making it official. The next hour was brutal. She packed while crying, begging, threatening. She called me heartless, cruel, vindictive. She promised it would never happen again, swore she loved only me, claimed the affair meant nothing. All lies. I'd heard enough lies to last a lifetime. When she finished packing, she made one final attempt. What about the shop? The apartment? Everything we built together? What about it? I have rights. We're married. I pulled out a folder I'd prepared. Actually, you don't. See, I had my lawyer friend Sal review our prenup. Remember signing that? Her face went white. The prenup was just for protection. Right, my protection. The shop stays with me. The apartment stays with me. The car stays with me. You get to keep your personal belongings and whatever's in your personal bank account. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? My voice rose for the first time. Fair would have been you not cheating. Fair would have been you not getting pregnant by another man. Fair would have been you not lying to my face for months. She had nothing to say to that. There's one more thing, I said, pulling out my phone. I've documented everything. The tracking data, the DNA results, photos of you leaving Ivan's apartment, all of it. Why? Insurance. You try to cause problems for me, claim abuse, contest the prenup, spread lies about me, and I release everything. Your family, your friends, your employer, everyone will know exactly what kind of person you are. She grabbed her suitcase handle with shaking hands. I never thought you could be this cold. I learned from the best. After she left, I sat in our apartment, my apartment, and felt something I hadn't experienced in months, peace. The constant tension was gone. The lies had stopped. The betrayal was over. My phone rang. It was Frankie. How'd it go? She's gone. Good. You did the right thing, Nikki. I know. What now? I looked around the apartment, seeing it clearly for the first time in months. Without Clarice's things, it looked bigger, cleaner, more like home. Now I rebuild. Better this time. Need help? Nah, I got this. After I hung up, I walked to my jewelry workbench and picked up my tools. Tomorrow I'd start working on a new piece. Something clean and simple, without any flaws. Just like my new life. 6 months later, I heard through mutual friends that Clarice had moved back in with her parents. The baby was born healthy, a boy with Ivan's dark eyes and her stubborn chin. She tried reaching out a few times, but I never responded. Some cuts heal cleanly, others leave scars. But the deepest cut of all, the one that nearly destroyed me, that one healed perfectly, because I'd made it myself, with precision and purpose. And it was exactly what I needed.